The end. It's drawing
Here
near.
it comes.
Now the end is
It
near.
is drawing near. And so we face the final Hisao.
Oh, my
As
friend.
class ends, oh god, I simply rest my head on my hand and stare out of the window to pass the time.
I see.
It's been a few days since Lily told me her plans. I haven't been to her ordinary lunchtime haunt since then. Not that there would be much point. Hanako has been busy with the newspaper club she's newly joined, and has even begun talking in class with Naomi every now and then. Even Lily, aside from the fact that a meeting between us would have been awkward in any case, has been run off her feet with class representative duties as the summer holidays approach. And now, they're just about here. With the end of today's bell, the summer holidays will have begun. I suppose that all I'll end up doing will be visiting my parents for the duration and lazing about my old home, now that my previous plans are entirely askew. Oh, it's
Bruh.
Meanwhile, Akira and Lily will be en route to Scotland to live out the rest of their lives there. No matter how hard I try to rationalise the idea that once the summer holidays begin, my life will return to the way it was, it simply refuses to happen. Everyone's moving on with their lives. Lily's rejoining her family, Akira's moving up in her father's business, Hanako's gaining new friends and hobbies, even Yuko's moving ahead with her university aspirations. Even I'm moving forward in the end. With the grades I've gotten so far in Yamaku, much less after such a rocky beginning, the path to get into teaching science as a career seems straightforward. I suppose I should at least be happy about that much. But it doesn't really seem to help.
Holy shit, man. This is...
I know, man.
Damn. Oh.
I know, man. I know. Listen, no, I know.
How did you stomach this as a 16-year-old? This must have wrecked
I cried
you.
a lot. It did. It really did. I played all of these, Julian. I went down every single route, good, bad, or neutral. I did all of it. And I think, in fact, completing it probably wrecked me more than doing it all did.
Well... Hee-chan!
I quickly stopped my ruminating and turned to face the bubbly voice beside me, putting on the most upbeat expression I could muster. As expected, Shizune stands flanking her. I have a sneaking suspicion they want something from me. This pathway definitely hit me the hardest, though.
Really?
Like, of
this
all...
one, Lily's. Yeah. Yeah. You alright, man?
Hanako's was pretty... Yes, I'm fine. Hanako's was also pretty rough, but this one definitely hit me the hardest. Hey, Misha. Shizune. What's up?
Well, Shi-chan and I were thinking, since we're just two poor girls that need help with all the work we've been given just before the holidays begin.
Sure, I can help.
But Hee-chan, we really need... What?
I think I broke Misha.
Misha.exe has stopped working.
Even Shizune raises an eyebrow at her accomplice's shuddering stop in her tracks.
So you'll help us, Hee-chan?
I just said I would, didn't I? It's hardly like I have anything better to do. Maybe helping them with their work will help take my mind off the situation. Misha seems genuinely ecstatic with my response, but Shizune's expression is clouded and difficult to read. I find myself quickly averting my eyes from her own, as it almost looks like a face of pity. No doubt, it must just be my imagination. This is hardly the first time I've been in the student council room. Indeed, I found myself down here often, either to help Lily with class rep work, or to sort out one thing or another with the student council itself. Now, though, it's quite a different place.
Damn, look at that laptop.
Look at that laptop.
Look at that laptop.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a floppy disk reader and everything. Fuck yeah,
Type
dude.
of technology.
Oh, you could hack into the Matrix with that laptop, dude. Fucking hell. Oh.
Absolutely. It's got one of those token little blue things that they've got in the middle of the keyboard for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what it is? It's like it's a trackpad.
Is it?
Yeah. It's like a little mouse clit. You like tickle it and it moves the mouse. Yeah.
Way. Okay, you definitely could have found a better way to describe that, but
I'm sorry.
okay, I now kind of know what you mean. Disgusting. Papers and folders are strewn across every table in the room. Only a solitary little black laptop with atop a single desk sticking out from the mess. A mouse. It looks positively ancient, and I guess it has been valiantly serving its task in archiving information for years and years. You done? You happy?
No, I'm so fucking.
So what
funny.
needs doing?
Oh, I'm the best.
Oh, shut up!
Oh, do you know what that was? Do you know what that was? Just
What?
I'll stop.
Shut up. So
Wait,
what
you
needs
shut
doing? This looks like a lot to do.
Piss off.
This is heavy. This is heavy stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's in his expression. Fucking mouse click. Oh! Why did you have to put it like? Why are you laughing like Jimmy Carr? Why did you have to call it that? A trackpad was fine. That would have sufficed. I knew what you meant. You didn't need to then like. Fucking hell. She's in his expression becomes determined as she signs. It's a worrying look.
Hey, is this what's happened? I think now you understand how I feel, or how I felt when we were playing To the Moon, and you kept cracking jokes, and I was really invested, and I was like, no, shut up, and you were like, but I don't want you to be sad, and I was like, no, let me be fucking sad. I'm sorry.
Well, now you're not letting yourself be sad. Now you're just making clit jokes.
I didn't mean to. Everything,
no, I know it's fine. My worry was well placed. Everything, you say?
What's left on the desks is what needs to be done. It all needs to be digitally recorded, which is what the laptop is for.
And I'm guessing that I'll be the one doing this.
Shi-chan says she saw you with the computers in the library a few days ago. You dirty little bastard, you with a mouse clit. Did I see?
Fucking. Oh my god.
You seem really good with them.
Good with computers? I can touch type, I guess. I know I work a mouse clip, but it still seems like an overestimation of my skills.
Yeah.
I was just typing up homework. Wait, Shizune was watching me do that?
One must know their allies before they can know their enemies, of course. Wow, that's pretty wise.
For once, it's not very hard to work out who said what. Nonetheless, doesn't seem worth fighting over. Sitting at a computer doing some typing hardly seems onerous, as far as tasks to help Shizune and Misha go.
Besides, it will help you to take your mind off things.
Uh-oh. Take my mind off things? Take my mind off what things? Misha's face goes blank as she translates this for Shizune, though the latter's response is only to glance away towards the window after briefly signing. Uh-huh. Misha's face quickly returns to a smile as she translates back. She was confused, I guess, but Shizune is harder to pin down.
I was just thinking you may like to get her off your mind get your mind off the exams, of course.
Uh-huh. The exams, yeah? Either way, we may as well get into it sooner rather than later. I'll go along with you.
That's the spirit, Hee-chan.
Mm-hmm. And that's the 5th spreadsheet compiled and saved. Time for next month's. After a little bit of fussing around, we all managed to get things a bit more organised. Shizune's been gathering up the loose sheets and, thankfully, sorting them into a neat pile next to me. Meanwhile, Misha's been handling the manual writing work, her girly pink pen leaving its unmistakable mark on paper after paper. Once I got myself into a rhythm, this really wasn't so bad. Shizune and Misha also seem to be in the swing of things, wordlessly communicating as they go about their business with fervour. I periodically glanced at the sheet beside the laptop, apparently a list of student names and matching addresses, as I dutifully enter the data written on it. I don't pay a lot of attention to what I'm typing until I reach about midway down the page. Akamichi, Class 3-3. Huh. Her family's home is in Saitama. My idle curiosity is ended abruptly as 3 light taps can be heard rapping on the door. Misha quickly skips over to check who it is, tapping Shizune's shoulder on the way past to let her companion know what's happening.
Ah, you're here!
Oh. Who is it? Who is it, Julian?
Oh, wow.
With a slight pause to enter Shizune's data into the file along with all the others, I look up to check who's at the door. Lilly? After giving a cursory nod to Misha in greeting, she perks her head up in her trademark manner.
Is that Hisso?
She's pretty darn good at working out my voice from the smallest of phrases nowadays. Yeah, it's me. Hey. The atmosphere feels slightly awkward as she bows. Neither of us knows quite how intimate we should be around each other, given she's leaving in just a matter of hours. This is a fact that, thankfully, neither the oblivious Misha nor the hard-working Shizune pick up on. So, you've got work to do as well?
Unfortunately, I arrived as soon as I could, but my class held me up with a surprise farewell party, and I had to get changed.
I glanced down at the laptop's clock. It's pretty much the end of lunchtime, so I'm guessing Lilly managed to wrangle the last period off as well.
I take it Shizune is here as well. Shizune, Jesus Christ. Can't read. Of course! And I've been here during all of lunchtime as well.
That last comment was really not needed. Shizune is baiting Lilly into another argument. I can feel it.
I'm sorry I can't be as hard-working as you, Shizune. I'll endeavour to hire more lackeys to do my work in the future, I assure you.
And Lilly just took the bait, escalating things further.
But aren't you the one always outsourcing work to your classmates? The difference is that they choose to help, unlike your tyrannical grip on your own class.
Oh, I'm fighting words.
Charity works! Even if we did things differently, we still got the same results, right? Whoa, buddy. Hey.
I don't know about that. Come on.
That's dangerous thinking, that. That's...
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of people have died because they've thought like that. Innocent
Misha,
people,
more like Michelini.
It's not even Misha saying that. She's just a...
Shizune, more like Shizitler.
This is school, not a police state. You'll have to remind me when you were appointed class monarch, I'm afraid. Ooh.
I know, man. Shots fired. It's gonna be the last argument
You
for a while.
have
We
to
gotta make
seize
it good.
power. It's not as good as if it's just handed to you, but I guess you wouldn't really understand that, right? Oh.
Ladies.
You'll also have to remind me when monarchs were elected into their positions by the Pope.
Yeah.
The Pope
By
could
God,
be like,
of course.
by God, yeah. It's either
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
or nah. Piss off.
That was the shtick. That was the whole idea.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been chosen by God.
Yeah.
Now I'm here.
Well,
Lily
I suppose
positively bristles at this.
in Japan, the emperor, in a sense, is God.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so
But they had like shoguns and stuff as well.
yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yes. Lily positively bristles at this. She's in his 2-hit combo forces her onto defense.
Yet, for all your vaunted power, you cannot get one person to help you without forcing him. But Hisao volunteered. He's such a hard worker. He's doing this instead of meaningless socialization, right? Is that so, Hisao?
This is bad. I've really ended up between a rock and a hard place. Like that time I was fucking the wall. As much as it may pain me to do this, the truth has at least a chance of stopping this argument here and now.
It's okay, Lily. You didn't harass me to come or anything.
Lily gives me a disapproving grimace, silently radiating her strong feelings of displeasure in my general direction. She can be quite scary when she wants to be. But thankfully that isn't often.
Hey Chan, you make that sound like it's a regular occurrence.
It isn't. In the end, it doesn't matter so long as everything's getting done at a good pace. Let's just get this work over with so we can go home.
Shizune snorts derisively and gets back to marking off the sheet in front of her, while Lily sighs and finds her way along the room with her hand following the filing cabinets lined along the wall. This would mark the only time I've managed to successfully defuse one of these situations, but the grudging ceasefire built around our mutual fear and respect makes this feel more like the Cold War than any real peace. I can't take all the credit though. Lily's leaving has surely affected Shizune to some extent to make her give up so easily. Moments before getting back to my work, I noticed Lily reaching up to grab something from above a filing cabinet. I almost offered to help, but her height gives her ample ability to take it down safely. Once she sets the strangely shaped device on the desk beside me, I realise just what it is. Sort of. As she takes the old green covering off and sits down. At first glance, it seems to be an old metallic blue typewriter, but it doesn't take... Sorry, I had a bit of gas there, but it doesn't take me long to realise it's far from ordinary. It has far fewer keys than expected, and those it has show no lettering printed on them. Only the shadows cast by the tiny braille dots on them give a hint to the thing's purpose.
Blind typewriter?
Oh, this? Well, you're not far off. It's normally called a Perkins Brailer, but it's basically a typewriter for the blind, yes. It presses braille into the page rather than text, which is why it has fewer keys.
Huh! That's really neat.
She gives a light-hearted grin at my curiosity over it. I have to admit that it appeals to my sense of novelty.
It would be a kind of a cool thing to have.
Absolutely.
I love old knickknacks.
Yeah, man, especially handy knickknacks where you can, like, write in braille.
Yeah.
Without further ado, we each get back to our allotted tasks. The loud clunking of the mechanics on Lily's brailer and the tapping of the laptop's old and weary keyboard quickly fill the room. It's a nice atmosphere, really. Everyone knows what they have to do, and Lily and I get to sit beside each other and exchange the odd word as we work away. Nostalgic. That's what it feels like. It's pleasant, but just slightly stained with the knowledge that our time together is nearing its end.
Excuse me, Misha.
To properly address her, Misha bounces over from the filing cabinet she's peering into, in spite of Lily's lack of sight. For a moment, I think it's strange, but then realise it's exactly what I do.
What's up? Could you ask Shizune where the attendance records for Class 3-2 are? I think they've been moved. Okie dokie!
And with that, she flitters off to Shizune, who's working at a table behind us. Lily's familiarity with the council room and the efficiency with which she works remind me that she, Misha, and Shizune used to all work together in the student council. Maybe this is a fitting end for her stay in Yamaku. Working away just like she used to, surrounded by those she loves and at least liked. I look up, getting taken off guard by Shizune sorting through a drawer rather than Misha. Sure enough, she plucks out a manila folder, entirely blank save for the just barely visible bumps on its front, and holds it in front of Lily. Lily's hands flit over it to check what it is, her fingers feeling out the dots of braille and confirming it's what she asked for.
Thank you, Misha.
No reply. No reply, that is, save for an odd grin. No. Smile on Shizune's face. A couple of seconds pass before Lily clicks that it isn't Misha behind her, but Shizune. Her momentary look of surprise is replaced by a slightly bashful smile. For a few moments, the room is all but still and silent. Eventually, though, Shizune strides back to her workstation, and Lily begins typing once again. It only lasted a handful of seconds in all, but it feels like years of communication were made up for in that one silent exchange.
There. Finished.
I lean my head back and rub my eyes to try and work away their weariness. Staring at that small and rather poor screen has taken its toll.
Excellent timing. The only thing left is to file these away, and I'll have my workload finished as well.
Good. I can pack up the brailer and put it away while you do that.
Thank you, Hisao.
Misha, are you and Shizune far from being done?
I look around for the two as I replace the cover over the brailer, only to see them waiting at the door. I guess they must be waiting for us. With a minimum of wasted time, we file and pack up everything that remains and join them.
Thanks for waiting, you two.
We couldn't just take off without you, Hee-chan. You've been a great help.
Shizune nods approvingly, pleased with my efforts.
I guess that's the last class representative work done and over with then.
That's right. I'll miss you, Lily. I think it was fun working with you. Thank you, Misha. It's been good working with you. And Shizune.
Shizune thinks for a moment before formulating her response. It's not that she often communicates without thinking, quite the opposite, but this time it's even more considered than usual. Misha looks a little surprised before passing on the message.
Shizune says, you'd better do your work over there better than you did it here. Classic.
Far from taking offense, Lily giggles into her hand.
If
Oh,
that's
Shizune.
the case, then please tell Shizune to give those still here a little more understanding in the future.
Competitive until the last. Maybe Shizune and Lily aren't so different after all.
Shi-chan says that she'll be checking to make sure you live up to your end of the promise. Then that's how it will be. I'd better be off then. Goodbye, Shizune. Goodbye, Misha. Hisao.
Lily takes a hold of my arm in hers, there being no need for a cane if I'm here to guide her. With a nod of farewell to the two, we set off out the door and make our way to the school grounds. As I turn to wave goodbye to them, I notice Shizune's gaze lingering on Lily. They may annoy each other, but family bonds aren't easily broken.
Yeah, man.
Got all your papers sorted then?
Yes, they've all been filed out and handed in.
On top of things as always, aren't you?
She gives an earnest smile at the compliment, but it feels as if her happiness is just a veneer over the fact that she's fully aware of how much she's leaving behind. It reminds me of how she was like when I first met her. Always smiling, always that little bit aloof, always that little bit distant away from everybody. Even now, she still maintains that air around many others, especially those she's not close to. I'd hoped that our time together would have changed that fact. Our pace slows, the two of us coming to a halt in the all but empty school gardens.
Hisao, is something the...
Lily's words are cut short as I turn and wrap my arms around her, pulling her tight. I may not usually be given to such impulsive actions, but I just want to be close to her, even if it's the last time I'll be able to. All the other students have retreated to their dormitories and homes, only the ruffling of leaves in the breeze making any sound whatsoever. As I draw back, I can see she has dropped her carefully maintained smile. Her hand hesitates, wanting neither to leave nor stay on my features. She's putting up a brave show, but her slight trembling gives her away. Lily may be able to control herself well, but even she can't hold her composure together now. This is the woman I've come to love, but also the one who, in all too short a time, will leave the country forever.
I'm sorry, Hisao.
It's okay. You've got your own life to lead after all.
We walk up the hallway in the girls' dormitory hand in hand, our emotions by now largely quelled. Nevertheless, our hands grip each other much more tightly than before. Faint, muffled voices can be heard from Lily's room, the origins of which aren't difficult to guess.
Oh.
The moment she opens the door... What were we going to say?
No, this must be even tougher on Hanako than it is on me, man. I've barely known her.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, sure enough, the moment she opens the door, Hanako bursts through and wraps her arm around Lily, taking her very obviously by surprise.
I don't even want to read this, man. I'll just be making it silly. Hanako, I'm gonna miss you, Lily.
It's not silly, man. Acting's about truth, Julian.
Ugh.
You know, Hanako feels the same way you do. Just heighten it.
Mm.
As expected, she's on the verge of tears. Lily gently rubs Hanako's hair with her hand in response, then pulls back and gives a warm, reassuring smile. Looking beyond Hanako, Akira can be seen getting up from the side of Lily's bed and scratching her head. Her eyes turn from Lily and Hanako to me, a stilted, weak smile hanging on her face. I try to return a more genuinely happy look, but the result is probably just the same.
So, everything set? Managed to hold back from killing Shizune?
The comment draws an amused giggle from her sister.
Yes, I have everything in order, and yes, I managed not to. Have you packed everything you need? Got 2 bags right here, and there's still some stuff left at the Hakamichi's home. I can pick that up while we wait there for tomorrow evening's flight, though.
Akira gives the 2 large black travelling bags on the floor a hearty pat. She probably came to help pack and make sure everything was in order on Lily's end, before going together with her.
Lily, will you be okay over there? I'll be alright, I assure you. I'll have Akira looking after me as well, and you know that she's reliable.
Yeah, it's true.
But don't worry, Hanako. I have your phone number after all, so we can stay in touch. With Akira's help, I could send you things over the internet as well.
Like
hey,
dank
don't
meme.
use me just because you won't learn how to use a computer. Hey, Hanako, check out this dank meme. I don't know what a dank meme is or what it looks like, but check it out.
Hey Hanako, here's a video of a young man singing a popular song while his parents get divorced. I don't understand it, but maybe you will.
Meanwhile, Hanako is like...
Hanako and Lily both giggle briefly, the mood lightening ever so little. Alright.
That goes for you too, though, Hisao. I promise I'll contact you once I'm in Scotland.
I know. I'll be looking forward to it.
Her offer may be kind, but we both know that this is tantamount to breaking up. Neither of us has any illusions as to how well we'd manage a long-distance relationship. With nary a word of prompting, the 4 of us begin the long, solemn walk to the school gate. The numerous lamps scattered around the Yamaku grounds fail to do much more than provide pinpoints of light in an otherwise dense darkness. A car parked on the road just outside the school grounds comes into view, its shining black exterior reflecting the dimly lit lamps of Yamaku. I call out to Akira in an effort to alleviate a bit the heavy atmosphere.
That your car? What kind is it?
Don't know much about cars, do you? It's a Lancer Evo, solid and speedy.
Well, it's not as if her comment on my knowledge is off the mark. I've never really taken an interest in them. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
She gives a small sigh.
she's been good. Pity I have to part with it tomorrow, just like the summer house. You guys were the last to visit it before it changed hands.
God, they sold the house.
They just sold everything.
Turning back from my rather faulty attempt at small talk, I glance at Hanako and Lily following behind us. By rights, Hanako should be leading Lily, but it's rather definitely the other way around as she clings tightly to Lily's arm. It's a depressing sight.
So, I guess this is it. Indeed.
Although the time for everyone to say, "Oh,
Alright, sorry, I'm gonna break the. How much longer do you think we have? I'm happy to make this an extra long episode if we're really like close to the end.
We are really close to the end, but I think we might be close enough that we could do it in another episode.
Right. Do you want to do that then?
Sort of thing. It might be quite a short other episode, but if we're at next episode time, then I'd say we
are
can carry
at
on.
next episode time. Do you want
We
to just
are?
carry on? Extra long episode. Screw it. You're gonna get an hour.
Extra
or
long.
whatever it is.
Okay, yeah. All right. Although the time for everyone to say their farewells is now, nobody really wants to take the first step. It's as if the longer nobody speaks, the better the chances of them simply not leaving.
Yeah, like all our rambling for this game not to end, or this route
know.
not to end. Lily,
I know.
do you really have to go?
All those weird stories.
I'm sorry, Hanako. I won't be leaving you forever, though. I can still call you. Hisao will still be here as well.
I nod, but Hanako just clutches all the tighter to Lily's arm. All right. After spending so long without anyone to call family, it must be excruciating to have to say goodbye to the one person that was as close to a mother as anyone could have been in her life. Lily lets out a long, sad breath. All Akira and I can really do is stand by quietly on the sideline, since the only person that can solve this would be Lily herself. Eventually, Lily pulls her arm from Hanako's grip and holds both of her shoulders gently, a much more decisive way of address than I've ever seen Lily take with her.
Hanako, remember when we first met? When you entered my room for the first time after overhearing my consoling of a friend? You didn't say a single word for the entire night. Even as I poured you tea and talked, you sat silently and simply listened to what I said. It took many quiet meetings like that before you began to open up to me, but as you began to, I felt some of the happiest moments I've ever felt. I didn't become your friend because I pitied you, Hanako. I became your friend because I knew you were hiding not just from me, but from everyone. Your ambitions, personality, interests, tastes. I didn't know any of them, and neither did anybody else. And you showed yourself to me, though. I began to realize the person that you were, and became sure that our meeting was a very special moment. But
Lily cuts her words short as she brings her hand to Hanako's head and brushes her bangs slightly to the side, gently pressing her lips against Hanako's forehead. As she pulls her head back, leaving Hanako all but speechless and her eyes moist, Lily beams a wide smile.
I believe you are a very beautiful person, Hanako, and I'm certain that you will become a strong and confident woman who does not need no man. You're
Indeed.
a very dear friend, and someone who I love very much. Just like Hisao, I will never forget you for as long as I live. I may be leaving, but you have your own life here to lead. Just as I do, you have your own friends and hobbies, and your own hopes after graduation. I want you to devote yourself to them even after I'm not around anymore. That is why I think you'll be okay. Yeah, she does, man. Because you are your own self, with your own life. You proved that. You yourself proved that to me.
Hanako lowers her head in embarrassment, but nods as she does so.
I understand. I know I have to say goodbye. I know you have to go your own way. Go your own way. But thank you, Lily, for everything.
You bastard.
Sorry. Thank you, Hanako. Will you be okay?
There are a few seconds of silence before the answer comes.
I will.
Lily smiles, undoubtedly at least partly in relief.
That makes me very happy then. Goodbye. Goodbye, Lily. Farewell to you as well, Hisao.
Oh God.
Goodbye. I'll miss you.
She pauses for a moment before walking up to me. Her right hand, outstretched in front of her, takes a hold of my shoulder. Her left hand slowly and daintily reaches towards my face, taking my cheek in her palm. For a while, she simply holds my face, her fingers just slightly moving to take in its contours. Usually, her hand would be warm when doing such a thing, but the night's air has given her skin a cool edge. I'm not sure how long we stay like this. Her clouded eyes pointed just below my own as she wears a wistful, almost distant smile. Eventually, though, I take her cold hand in mine. It's difficult to do so, but with a slight sigh, I gently remove her hand from my cheek.
I hope you have a long and happy life, Lily, no matter where you might go.
Thank you. I'll make sure to.
She takes a long, trembling breath before turning slightly towards Akira's direction.
Akira. Okay.
With a nod, she takes Lily's hand and begins to guide her to the car parked outside the gates. They both walk slowly and deliberately, as if their movements had been rehearsed in advance. It's strange to feel like this now, watching somebody leave Yamaku. The feeling of unease I have now reminds me of the first time I walked through those black wrought iron gates that always looked far too pompous for what they were.
Nice callback.
As they leave, all of us know full well that our lives are irreversibly changing. I'd always told myself that I'd just have to take life as it comes, but everything's changing so fast, so suddenly. In the end, Lily is an irreplaceable part of the lives of both Hanako and me. The noise of Akira opening the passenger door for Lily brings me out of my thoughts, her hand waving back as Lily gets in.
See you guys. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, Hanako. Goodbye, Hisao.
Hanako's hand quickly shoots up, her face brightened by her enthusiastic farewell.
Goodbye, Lily. Goodbye.
See ya, Akira. And, goodbye, Lily.
The door shuts as we all put on our best happy farewell faces, Akira getting in the car herself and starting it up in short measure. Lily's hand can just be seen waving through the tinted windows, both of our hands waving high as well. Just as every other time I've done such things, I can't work out precisely why I, or Hanako, waved to her, given that she's never seen us doing so. But it doesn't matter. Even after that black shiny car goes down the hill and disappears into the dark night, we carry on waving and seeing Akira and Lily off. And then they're gone. The strange stillness takes over as our hands return to our sides. I don't quite know what I should do or how I should feel. In the end, we just stand there, silently staring down at where the car disappeared from sight.
Goodbye, Lily. John? Oh. The internet went poopy.
You alright?
Yeah, I was waiting
Hello?
for you, man. You bugged out.
Julian?
Hi. Sorry, the internet connection
All I can
went...
do in response to her quiet, mournful goodbye is to place a hand on her shoulder.
Sorry, man, would you, this is just for editing's sake, could you just read that again? I'll try not to speak. I'll wait for you to just do the line.
All I can do in response to her quiet, mournful goodbye is to place a hand on her shoulder. She looks at me for a few moments before looking back down the hill, secure in the knowledge that I'm still around for her. What we'll do from now doesn't seem all that uncertain. We all have our own ambitions now, just as Lily said. But even so, it feels like there's a certain missing part in both our lives now. Something that can never be replaced. What a horrible time for the internet to act up.
I know, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
The guys at home won't know.
How are you holding up on your end?
I'm okay, I'm just...
Yeah. The snap of my mobile... Yeah, I know. The snap of my mobile phone's closing contrasts with the ambient chatter and noise audible even in the hallway outside the library. It's the first day of the summer holidays. A time that had perpetually seemed so far away And yet it's now not only here, but also made painfully obvious by the students, or lack thereof, left in the school.
It's at times like this where, I mean, this is really emotional, really well written, whatever. Now I'm just thinking about the equipment shed.
You never even saw the equipment shed. Why are you thinking about it?
I know, but you've told me about the equipment shed, and now I'm like, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe the equipment shed.
Maybe you should have had a heart attack in the middle of the running track. No, because that would have also had a pretty harrowing story that you'd have to go through. You know?
Do they all have pretty harrowing stories? Is this what you're talking?
Yeah, most of them have some kind of like harrowing element to their stories. I think the only one that's not necessarily harrowing is maybe Rin.
Alright. Anyway.
But even then, that's Rin's path is the whole thing. Yeah. Anyway.
Did you read the thing? Sorry.
I did,
I was thinking about the equipment shed.
Ugh. Most students have returned home to spend the holidays with relatives by now. The few that are left are mostly chatting between themselves, usually about what they intend to do in the coming weeks. Speaking of which, we've not seen Emmy or Rin in a long time.
No, we haven't.
I wonder what they're up to. It makes me feel like the odd one out, for taking advantage of the school library being open for the first several days of the holidays. Ostensibly, it's for students to drop off any books they've borrowed and have yet to return, and for those who'll have their parents pick them up to help pass the time until they get whisked away. Thanks to the recent lengthy phone call from my parents, which had so rudely awoken me from my sleeping on a beanbag at the back of the library, I'm now in the latter category. Sliding my phone back into my pocket, this time remembering to set it to silent, I go back into the quiet and wholly placid room. It's a nostalgic sight. Just as when Lilly first led me to the library, the orange tint of sunset bathes the room in its light, while Hanako sits in a beanbag silently reading, and Yuko fusses, just barely visible behind the counter. Hanako especially has been noticeably more quiet than usual since yesterday's happenings, but I can't really blame her. It wasn't just me that depended on that person after all. I quietly walk back to the beanbag near where I'd sat before, being doubly careful not to make any unnecessary noise. The soft puff it gives as the bag takes my weight makes Hanako's eyes flick towards me, but only for a second. I get the feeling that Hanako's being quiet only partly out of sadness following Lily's departure. Rather, she seems more thoughtful and measured than I'd expected. Perhaps due to her desire of working out how to deal with Lily's leaving rather than just being depressed over it. It makes me a little proud of her.
Hey, Hanako?
Yeah?
Still going ahead with your idea of traveling?
She gives a determined nod.
I'll be starting in a day or two. Naomi's decided to come with me too.
Oh, sick.
Wow, quick start. Where are you two headed to first?
I think we're going to start by going north, then loop down and go southward.
So, Hokkaido's gonna be first.
She gives another nod, more tentative than the last. The significance of that place is not lost on either of us.
Do you know how you're gonna handle the traveling expenses and accommodations?
Yeah, I've worked everything out. I think it should be okay. Naomi says she has her side worked out too.
You know that if you need anything, you can just call, right? I gave you my number before. Any time of the day is fine.
She gives a smile, which in itself feels like a small personal victory.
I know. Thanks, Hisao.
Maybe Lily was right. Although I may offer Hanako any help I can possibly give, I feel as if I know she doesn't need it. She really has grown. Hanako's plans for her holidays are in sharp contrast to my simple following of my parents' suggestion to stay with them. Holidays had always made me feel less excited than most though, so maybe this is just a return to the status quo. Before my heart attack, I had always lived so aimlessly that holidays weren't all that much different from my everyday life anyway. After school, I'd wander around a bit in the city, often hanging out with some friends before making my way home to eat dinner with usually one of my parents, but rarely both. Their work schedules didn't leave much time for them to be home, and going there straight from school would have just meant I'd end up feeling bored. I was an urbanite through and through. Since coming to Yamaku, though, it feels like I've fundamentally changed as a person. The phone call with my parents erased any traces of doubt I might have held on that in any case. Well, before I had exercised a fairly normal level of independence for a teenager, that being not a whole lot, my parents were more than pleased to hear of my newfound ability in taking care of myself. Laundry, cooking for myself, cleaning, all in addition to other general chores that come from living without parents around. Just little menial things I've had to pick up, but with relative ease. When I think about it, I'd always depended on them, even if they hadn't been at home all the time. To say I never depended on anyone after moving to the Yamaku dormitories would be far from the truth, though.
Excuse me.
The two of us look up at the awkwardly fidgeting figure in front of us. Some things never change.
It's getting close to closing time, so
Oh, right. I'd forgotten that the library closes earlier during the holidays. Hanako and I both get up and dust ourselves off, placing our books back on the shelf behind us. The fact that our tastes in reading material have a fair amount of overlap is useful at times. With a bow to Yuko to apologize for taking so much time, Hanako takes her leave of us.
see you tomorrow, Hisao.
Bye!
And with that, she walks out of the large wooden, aging doors that herald the entrance to the library.
She's a quiet person, isn't she?
I suppose I should be surprised at a staff member sharing personal opinions like this, but after knowing Yuko for a while, it's largely expected. Our relationship is more personal, rather than one with her acting as an authority figure.
Yeah, I think that's just how she is. She's got a lot more confidence in herself these days.
I don't know her as well as you do, but I think I agree. It's nice to see her talking to people here. She never used to do that before.
Hey, Yuko. You know about Lily's leaving, right?
She told me herself a few days ago. It must be hard leaving everyone behind like she is.
She quickly looks back to me after she says this, probably remembering that I went to her for advice on the relationship between Lily and me before.
Are you going to be okay?
Let's fucking hope so. That's a difficult question. It's something I'd rather not think about for now, though, given more pressing issues.
Something seems kind of off about this whole deal, don't you think?
Yuko appears to think for a while, absent-mindedly scrunching her face up in a variety of creative ways as she does so.
I don't think I really know her well enough to make that kind of judgment. I'm sorry I can't be more help.
No, it's fine. I'm just sort of thinking aloud.
I give a deep sigh and scratch my head in frustration.
There's just so much stuff happening at once that I have no control over. It feels like I'm being swamped.
I think everyone goes through times like that. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. What's important is to concentrate on what you can do, rather than what you can't do. At least that's how I see it. Yuko, you studying those Athenians, you know, we're on the same wavelength.
Yuko knows, man.
Yuko fucking knows. If I didn't think like that, I don't think I'd be able to manage my life as it is. You're damn right.
Absolutely. She says it with a smile and a light tone, but her words are far from any kind of joke. Being pulled between two jobs as she is, just to hopefully make enough money not only to live, but also for university, must be exhausting. Perhaps that's why, coming from her, this feels like it has more meaning than if it came from most others.
I guess you've got a point there. Thank you for your advice once again, Yuko.
She bows deeply and smiles again, before making her way back to the counter where she spends so much of her time. Oh boy. The tiny wings of the cardboard crane in my fingers are only just visible in the dim light of my room. Just a little of the moonlight being able to peek through the curtains and around their edges.
Oh, dude.
I lie still in my dark bed for a long time, idly looking up at the little origami bird. It feels like a lot's happened since Lily folded this, but at the same time it feels like very little has changed. Compared to everyone else, I'm back to square one. I might have a newfound idea of where I want to go in life, but that's hardly something that affects me now. Hanako changed, I know that much. If anything, she just makes me feel like I've got no excuse to be like this, considering her previous situation. Lilly, though. I turn the bird in my fingers another way, looking at it from yet another angle. When I first met her, she seemed aloof, and perhaps somewhat distant. Her actions were always careful, measured, and precise, and her carefully maintained composure always gave the appearance of unerring confidence and serenity. In time, she became less formal. Just a bit, but enough. It felt good to see her lowering her inhibitions around me and opening up, even just a little, of her own accord. It felt as if I was seeing her real self slowly become more vibrant and visible. Now, though, I'm beginning to have doubts. Perhaps they're to be expected after what is, effectively, the two of us breaking up. They don't feel new or strange, though, but rather like an old book being found and dusted off. I soon realized after meeting Lilly that she saw me as she did Hanako, as someone who needed help and care. And at first I simply thought that we'd be fine as friends, helping each other through our limited time together in school. But then I began to treasure our moments together more and more, from our quiet walks to our talking over lunch. The good sides of her personality became ever more obvious and ever more likable. The absence caused by Lily's trip to Scotland to visit her long-distant family and sick aunt only made me realise how much I'd liked just being around her. And I'd thought that she felt a similar way. For her, though, maybe that wasn't everything to our relationship. Even after she returned to Japan, that just meant she lost her family once again, after meeting them for such a brief time. She lived so much of her life without her family around, not to mention with Akira working long hours, that she had little choice but to be like that. I had thought her sense of independence to be a good and admirable trait. It was in stark difference to my reliance on my parents before my heart attack, as reluctant as I may have been to admit it. However, it also meant that she never let people get too close to her. She lost her family, likely due to her blindness, went to a different school from anybody she knew because of it, and worked all the harder to make sure she didn't end up a burden on her sister and those around her. And now, Akira's going to Inverness, just like the family she thought she'd lost. She never told me of her plans, as conflicted as she was about them. Lilly didn't want to be a burden on anyone, including me. I'm an idiot. I never questioned it. I never tried to be there or asked when she needed me to. I just set my life up and expected it to stay that way forever, with the two of us having a nice long relationship where we pushed forwards towards our future together. A small pit of frustration and anger at myself wells up in my chest. I just let everything happen, never even trying to help Lilly. Just her being there was enough. I thought I could keep going on if that were true. But that could never have been enough. It was a childlike dependence on somebody, without any attempt to understand or help their situation. Thanks to that, I lost Lilly. I lost the one person I loved most because I wasn't there for her when she needed me. With an increasingly angry feeling washing over me, I turn over and set the crane back on my desk next to my clock, the place where it has lived since that day where she folded it for me. Since that day when she said herself that my burdens needn't be my own. The obnoxious bright red numerals of my alarm clock shine through the darkness of the room onto my tired eyes. 10 o'clock. Evening. Curfew will be soon.
I wonder.
Akira mentioned they'd be leaving this evening. I've no idea exactly when their flight is, but that means there's a chance, however small, that they might not have already left. Adrenaline starts to move through my body as I sit up on my bed, my eyes suddenly wide with possibility.
Are we doing this?
There's no guarantee they haven't left. Indeed, it's likely that they already have, but there's also a chance they haven't, however small it may be. Just this once, just as I should have before. I stand up and rush over to my cabinet, throwing out some clothes as fast as I can and sliding them on in quick succession. Each second that goes by is a second that I can't regain, a second that may mean the difference between catching them and losing them forever. Even if I fail, I have to try. I can't just let her leave everything behind without even trying to stop her. Without just this once being there for her. With the last of my clothes slipped on, I hastily grabbed the phone off the desk. Luckily, the number for a local taxi company is still in my call history. A gruff, unenthusiastic voice announces the name of the company while I pace around the room.
Network present, huh?
It takes some effort to slow down my voice and keep it clear over the phone.
For fuck's sake, yeah, that's what it's like.
Where are you going? Alright, should be too long for you.
The chilly night air sweeps against me as I open the dormitory door, but nevertheless, I keep up my brisk speed as I half jog, half run out to the school gates. It may not be curfew just yet, but it's precariously close. If there were a guard around, they'd no doubt have some questions for me, but it looks like I've managed to come out just before they arrive. Or they're around a corner. My pace picks up as I make my way through the school gardens, their nighttime allure all but lost when I begin to run to the school gate. The lamps of the courtyard, dim as they are, provide just enough illumination to light the way and prevent me from tripping over. The buildings themselves take on a rustic, almost antique-looking edge when I glance at them. Looking back, it seems strange that they once appeared so dark and looming to me. Now they just look to be somewhat anachronistic school buildings, the same as any other, bar their age. Leaving the gates behind me, I pull to a stop just before the taxi. Parked just as Akira's car had been, its gaudy and brightly lit sign looks out of place in the quiet country backdrop. I impatiently squeeze myself through the door, giving the driver the address for where the two should hopefully be staying. By the time the taxi pulls up after its trip at maddeningly casual speed, it's well and truly deep into the night.
It wasn't network then.
No. The house is truly enormous, its sheer size much larger than I'd expected, and ominously still. Fearing the worst, I asked the driver to stay just in case my efforts are for naught. A single press on the fancy intercom system outside the gate produces a short electronic melody in the otherwise silent road. It's not long before a somewhat deep, gruff voice can be heard from it.
This is the Hakamichi residence. Please state your name and why you're bothering us this late.
I press on, despite inwardly wincing at the reasonable annoyance audible in his voice.
It's Hisan Nakai. I was hoping to meet Lilly or Akira if they're still here.
Surprisingly, I managed to summon quite some energy into my voice. Enough to make the other side of the intercom silent. A few seconds pass, but just before I press the button again and ask what's going on, a light turns on outside the front door. I strain my eyes to try and make out who is coming through, but as he comes past a large parked car with fishing rods sticking out the back, his identity becomes clear. His face is typically placid and emotionless as he saunters up to the gate. He's still childlike in his mannerisms, despite his demeanour. With the press of a few buttons from behind the fence, the gate slowly opens.
You're doing the male voices, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll take Hideaki. Hiso, what are you doing here? I think this is the most emotion I've ever heard from his voice. Not that it would be hard to reach that mark.
Akira told me that she and Lilly would be staying here before they left for their flight. I need to talk to Lilly just one last time. Are they still here?
The look on his face says everything. I failed. I was too late. The one time when I actually needed to act quickly and... Actually, it's possible.
What? What is it?
He's a bit taken aback by my fervour, but I can't help it at this point. They left not long ago, only a few minutes before you arrived, in fact. If you go straight to the airport, you might be able to... Hisao? I dart back towards the waiting taxi, grabbing what little money is left in my pocket as I go.
Thanks, Hideaki!
With that, I take a seat and, in short order, bark out my destination. Whoa, my chest beats wildly as I tear down the street, my body twisting this way and that to slip between the pedestrians walking back and forth beside me. With the road solidly blocked by taxis and other cars, dropping off passengers and picking up others in the time they have to wait, we ended up having to stop almost a block away. But that's in the past now. What matters is reaching Lilly. One foot hits the ground, the other quickly following without the slightest thought, as if my legs have been taking on a life of their own, and all my mind can do is concentrate on the view ahead of me. Just one glimpse of that long hair of hers, that long yellow hair that was the same colour as the wheat that stretched as far as the eye can see. In the end, I depended on Lilly just like Hanako did. Even after we started going out, it still doesn't feel like she ever really let herself depend on me. Except for one moment. That one moment where we held each other tightly on that bright yellow field. At that time, she must have feared losing me just as she did everyone else. And that's why, just this once, the night air wraps around me, draining every last remnant of warmth out of my body, to the extent that it feels more like midwinter than a summer night. My fingers, my hands, my feet, all feel increasingly cold. The sound of the passing crowd is reduced to no more than a background hum, while the sound of my shoes hitting the pavement echoes loudly, every step surging towards the person I have to catch. Forced by my chest tightening in response to the cold night, I rest an arm over it to try and settle it down. Oh no. When the airport comes into view, though, I realise this feeling is one I've felt before. Not now. Of all the times for this, please, not now. I take a gulp and soldier on regardless, pushing my body as far as it'll go. Sweat pours off me as I hurtle forward, my shoulder hitting someone's side and my mind suddenly flooding with emotions and memories. I continue on without an apology. I have to keep moving now. If I stop, I'm not sure I could begin again, and even if I could, it would all be for naught if I'm not in time. I hit another person, then another, offering little resistance to getting bounced about. My feet feel numb, my arms are losing all feeling, my chest forces me to hunch over awkwardly, tightening even more. That afternoon in the snow, that time when my life irreversibly changed. Images of Iwanako and that damn letter flash over and over in my mind. The first love I'd lost thanks to my condition. I can't let that happen again. I don't care what happens to me anymore, I just need to see her one last time. There! A sliver of yellow and white comes into view in some distance down the road, her figure silhouetted by the lights emanating from the airport entrance.
Lilly! 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 Stop, please! Lilly!
Come on, Lilly, I know your hearing's far beyond
God!
My view suddenly spins out of control and ends up on the ground, my body haphazardly sprawled after hitting someone and stumbling over. Before I can assess the damage, an unbelievable pain ignites in my body. All my thoughts are blanked as I curl up and frantically clutch at my chest. Hey, are you okay? That was a really bad fall. This pain. I can't. Any sharp knock could do me in. Any overexertion. I thought I could overcome my limits this once. Something's wrong with them. What's the matter? Are you... The voices of those gathering around me are gradually replaced by a loud ringing in my ears. By now I'm unable to move my head. My eyes turn upwards to see the mute moving of their lips. Even as I clutch my chest, I realise I can't feel my fingers anymore. Nor my feet. It feels like my entire body is shutting down, starting from my extremities. With one last effort, I turn my head down the road towards the airport entrance that's casting its light over me. Lilly is there, behind the crowd. Her head is tilted, but only just slightly. I can feel my vision dimming as I try to yell out, but nothing emerges from my mouth despite my best efforts. Slowly but surely, my vision begins to black out the scene before me. So, this is how it ends. I failed. I was so close. So very close. But at the very last moment, my condition seized my chance at a new life and dragged me back. Now I'm gonna die. Sprawled out just meters from an airport, with a crowd of babbling people surrounding me, and with Lilly leaving for Scotland just a little distance ahead.
Shit, man.
That last word extinguishes the last of my energy. The world falls into a deep, inescapable blackness as every muscle in my body shuts down. I'm sorry, Lilly. I was too late.